Wildfires are insane, and out here in the Pacific Northwest, we can get some big ones. In fact, I worked during the Carlton Complex fire of 2014, which was like 289,000 acres, and then the Okanagan Complex, Northstar, and Tongue Complex fires that totaled between 700 and 750,000 acres back in 2015. So I take forest fires pretty seriously. And this July, 2 started not far from our cabin. They both were about 25 to 30 miles away, one to the south of me and one to the west of me. And this area is very dry this year. We really didn't have a lot of snow in the mountains, so we didn't have the snowpack. The stream behind my cabin isn't running this year. Normally, I get a pond or even a small lake down there in June. It just wasn't happening. Nothing. It was underground. The water wasn't running. So we're in a drought. So when these fires started up, I paid attention to them. I kept an eye on them. But at first, it didn't look like I was in trouble. And I had been out at the cabin in early July doing as much fire prep as I could with a friend of mine. We actually took our granddaughters out. They had a great time. But we got quite a bit done. Just not as much as I would normally get done by the end of July, because with my bad back, I wasn't able to do all that much, frankly. And my buddy Lance ran the tractor and got as much as he could done with it. So with these two big fires raging, I was watching InsyWebs, I was watching the evacuation maps, you name it, and then they predicted very, very strong wind gusts from the west heading east, as well as from the south heading north. Both of those fires had the prime conditions to head directly at the valley that our property is in. So I began to think I needed to get to the cabin. I needed to get up there and make sure it was prepared for fires. And when I was planning that wind event came and drove the fire to the west of me, called the Sinlahican fire. It drove it right to the outskirts of the town of Tenasket and the little bedroom community of Crumbacher, and they shut down the highway. And I was watching that, and I was really quite concerned because, well, that's where I go when I go to the cabin. Those businesses I frequent. And the fire was raging right at it with wind gusts over 45 miles an hour. It could easily jump even across the river and get into the hills on the east side of Tenasket and head straight to the valley where our property is. And there would be nothing stopping it if it did. Meanwhile, the fire to the south, called the Kaiser Canyon fire, was getting pushed north. And while I had watched it creep within 17 miles of the valley, it had then got down to 16 miles and jumped to 14 miles. It's pretty crazy. The two of the main roads that I could use to get up to our place, well, they were already closed down. Highway 155 and Highway 21 through Keller, those were closed. I couldn't go that route. My only route really was Highway 97 going up through Omak, the Okanagan, and to Tenasket, or the other route was Spokane. I could take 395 to I-90, head to Spokane, and then head west from Spokane. However, an arson started a bunch of fires in the Spokane area at the beginning of that big wind event, and those fires burned over 900 homes. Well, that would have made traveling that way probably not a good idea. Meanwhile, there was another fire further east that was threatening the area north that I would have to go through anyway to try and get to the property. So I had to wait and I watched. Two things happened that saved the town of Tenasket, and it's really quite an amazing story. On the night the fire pushed right down to the edge of the town, all of the orchardists on the west side of town cranked up the sprinklers and had them running full time in their orchards, and it stopped the fire in its tracks right on the edge of town. And the firefighters out there at the same time were driving triple dozer lines to stop the fire when it got into the scrub, because it's very deserty there. Even though we have a lot of pine forests, there's also a lot of desert. And when it gets into that desert grass and sagebrush, it can just roar through that in a windstorm event like this. But with the dozer lines and the orchards, it shut it down and saved the town of Tenasket. I'm not even sure if they lost a structure. And this fire started over by the town of Loomis further west, and I think they may have saved Loomis too. Pretty amazing. The second thing that happened is the wind turned on the fire, pushed it back against itself. Well, that's excellent. And it did it to the south of me as well. So now, when that fire to the south was driving north towards Moses Mountain, which, had it been able to go around Moses Mountain, would have set it directly in my path, the wind turned it around. So we were okay. At this point, after having closed the last option for me to get to the cabin, they finally reopened it, and some friends of mine got together and said, Eric, we've got to get up to the cabin. We've got to get some protection put in for you. So thank you very much to Lance and Doug and Bill and Tommy and Tim, because without them, there's no way I could have gotten done what we got done this weekend.
Yeah, it looks like you came right down the hill right there.
Came right down the hill behind that house there. The smoke was thick, choking really, and if you've ever worked around wildfires, you know that it gets pretty heavy. And it was in what they call a partial hoot owl. Why they call it partial hoot owl, I don't know, but it's a stage in the forests where you can only run gas-operated tools and equipment during a certain period of time, and that would be 8 p.m. to 1 p.m. So from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m., no gas chainsaws, weed eaters, you name it, you can't run it. You don't want to do it anyway because it's so dry that one spark could light off a fire. You don't want that. You also can't use a box blade or chain harrow to build fire line unless you're right in the path of the fire kind of immediately. And even then, they want you to get out of there and let the firefighters do it. But you can't do that after 1 p.m. because they're concerned about the humidity in the air. It's just too dry. If the box blade goes over a rock, it can spark off a fire and then you're in trouble. So when we got there, we could use the tractor and the forks to move lumber that was around the cabin from some build work that we were doing last year. And the guys jumped to that right away and began clearing that out while everyone else grabbed electric weed eaters and electric chainsaws and began removing everything that could burn around the cabin. It was really quite amazing how much those guys got done. Frankly, I didn't get that much done because I'm not able to do it right now, but I was able to cook. So I made them dinner. It was chili dogs. Chili dogs for dinner with plenty of snacks. The guys loved it. We got up in the morning. I made a big breakfast of biscuits and gravy and eggs and bacon and got the guys really well fueled for the day. And by 8 o'clock, we were out box blading, running the harrow behind the ATV, running the chainsaws, bucking up logs, doing everything we could. I even got on the sawmill and milled up some logs to get them out of the way. Well, we're out here doing some fire prep. You can see the smoke. Fire's 14 miles in one direction and 20 in the other. And we're just trying to make sure we're ready for it if it comes this far, or another one starts.
Is that your property line, the fence line up there?
Yep, goes all the way to the top.
I'll make a pass through that too.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's pretty weedy yet.
Yeah, you go all the way up to the top, and then there's a turnaround up there, or you can actually dip down, come up and over and follow the box line.
Yeah, I'll just follow the box line.
Okay, yeah, that'll work. We're just trying to pull up a couple of these logs that were down there because we can get them out of there, and they're good saw logs, and I'd hate to have them down there and burning. So just I figured that, and if we get that other good saw log out, yeah, and you could just take that small one and cut it at like 16.5 or whatever. Yeah, and chain that one out. Just cut it at like 17 feet or whatever, and just pull the whole thing out. I've pulled a whole tree out, but I don't think Tim's Jeep will. But that'll help reduce the fuel load right there. Maybe as a last ditch effort, we pull that out before we quit. That behind you, that big old nasty pondo back there that's laying in the trees right there. No, right here.
Oh, yeah, the old one.
Yeah, if it doesn't fall apart. Major accomplishments going on here, folks. Got all that crap from underneath there pulled out. Needed to get done, and you got all that out. Cleaned all this up. If fire were to get in here, we're definitely in a better position than we were yesterday. This is great. It's not much fuel to burn in here. So the big plan anyway is to keep doing this to where we're set up so that all of this just doesn't have fuel. It's a safe space for firefighters if they have to come in here. It's a defensible space. The cabin's defensible. There's no trees within 50 feet of the cabin. So if it gets a big fire coming through here, it should rip by here instead of right into the cabin. And that'll make a difference. So that's the objective here, is just to try to make this a defensible space. We had to shut down at 1 p.m. And so at 1 p.m., covered in dirt. I mean, we were seriously dirty. We actually used a leaf blower to blow some of the dust off. Jumped in a couple of our rigs and headed down to the infamous Not Doug's. It's a tiny little ice cream shack in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of a valley that's literally in the middle of nowhere, but it's super popular and people come from all around to go to it. They make amazing shakes. The straws for those shakes are that big around. So we went down there and I bought all the guys shakes, and actually they took a picture of us and put it up on their Facebook page, I think because we were just filthy. You could tell we've been out working. I joked that these guys will work for shakes. We got back to the cabin and we still had hours of daylight. We just couldn't operate the gas-powered stuff or run the box blade, but we had done so much up to that point. Or I keep saying we, truthfully, the guys did the vast majority of the work. I did very little of it. I tried to work here and there, but my friends all know if I step wrong, I could be in a walker, so I can't right now. But we got back to work and the guys were asking me, well, what do you want to do now? And I said, honestly, that shed right there, that eyesore of a shed, it's been there since 2009. It's rat-infested, mouse-infested, nasty eyesore that if it caught fire was nothing more than a big pile of fuel that would just drive the fire into the cabin. I'd like to get rid of it. And if we just threw some chains on it and yanked it out of here, you know, that would be really good. So the guys helped me clean everything out of the shed, sort what was garbage and set it in a pile for a garbage run, and then what was still useful, good stuff, and set that in another pile, and then we ripped that shed to the ground, folks. Go ahead, rip it down. Come underneath it and pick it up. Watch the rats fly. Go, 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 rip it. Pull it. Put some fuel in it. Come on, rip it good.
Nope. Don't stop now.
Watch the solar panels. It's gone. The nastiness is gone. It's almost gone anyway. It will be gone soon. It's finally gone. Trust me, it's a pretty exciting thing to have that gone because, oh my gosh, it was an eyesore. It was terrible. It was a rat-infested, nasty, horrible place. I just didn't have anywhere to put all the stuff that was in there. And finally I said, it's going to get thrown out. With the exception of those things that I could put in the woodshed, the rest was getting thrown out. Awesome to see. And we got it over to the burn pile so that this fall or winter, when it's wet enough and safe enough to burn, we're going to burn that shed. Now, I might not be able to be there because if I have my back surgery, I won't be able to be there to burn the remains, but the guys can burn it. I'll be happy just to see some pictures of it burning this fall. We also dragged up some of the logs that had been cut down the previous year to remove the fuels right behind the cabin. We got those cut, bucked up, and dragged up to the log deck so that if and when I can get back on my sawmill, maybe I can get those milled up too. The cabin today and the property today is better protected than it ever has been in the 17 years that we've had it. I was stunned at just how much work we were able to accomplish, but I can tell you this, I feel a heck of a lot better, and we're still dirty, filthy from all of that dust and dirt, and we packed up and drove out, and we could see where the fire had stopped along the way from Tenasket. We were filthy dirty, folks, but you know what? We got the job done. So thank you very much to all my friends for helping out. I really appreciate it. Well, there you have it, folks. That's all I've got for you today. I got to admit, I'm tired. I'm kind of beat. You could probably hear it in my voice from all that smoke. And it was an awesome weekend, but I'm kind of beat today. So thanks for watching. Thanks to all my members. I really appreciate your support. Meanwhile, folks, I'm going to throw a video right over here for you to check out. Thanks again. Y'all have a great day. I'm going to rest a little easier tonight. The old Jarhead out.